Sonic Superstars has been out for a bit now, and if you haven't noticed, nobody's really talking about it. Like, I don't really hear a single thing without going off my way to hear about it. And while I know that we shouldn't immediately compare, I do definitely think that Mario Wonder has had a big contribution to this, just because, I mean, it came out basically the same week, and sadly, it just kind of puts it to shame, because while that game has been getting a lot of praise for its design philosophy and creativity and new freshness to a series that desperately needed it, so the overall consistency for Sonic Superstars, while not the absolute worst, is unfortunately pretty disappointing. Like, it's mediocre at best type of stuff, and a lot of people are overall just really let down by it. And the most common complaints are stuff like the camera's too close, and the gimmicks ruin the level and tend to be finicky, and the bosses suck with you just constantly waiting around and waiting for one chance to hit them and not being able to do it multiple times, or getting hit whenever if you're good at it, and there's too many special stages, and the characters feel heavy, and it's something that starts out promising, but it just gets worse and worse as you play the game. That's really unfortunate. And look, I'm not a Sonic level designer, so I can't really, like, say much to that aside from, like, pointing at those and being like, hey, don't do that, you better fix those and make them more like how people like them. And, sadly, the Mania team isn't around to develop this, and they probably aren't going to ever come back to do it unless if they can actually make money from doing it, which is what everybody just wanted. But yeah, it's because that you already heard those complaints enough, and the fact that I'm not a designer means that I can't really vouch anymore for that. However, what I want to talk about this video goes beyond just the level design. I'm going to be talking about the missed potential in the characters and story in this game, because something that I think everybody can agree with what ultimately makes Superstars not feel that great is that the game lacks heart. And this is also really visible in the lack of potential that's realized with non-gameplay elements. And I'm going to be talking about what I would like to see, and what I think could have been improved, and what I think was done kind of like disrespectfully or not good enough, and everything like that, because there's definitely kind of a lack of respect and like passion and knowledge from a genuine standpoint for reviving the classic Sonic stuff, and it just kind of feels like a nostalgic cash grab in the end. And as somebody who's a huge fan of the classic era, and not just the games, but like everything about it, the whole entire universe and all the side merchant media and all the characters and universe that they expanded on and created, I fucking love that vibe. I made the whole entire iceberg on it. So yeah, I come from a real place when I'm talking about my concerns with this. But anyway, I'm going to be talking about 3 characters who appear in this game and were really underutilized, and how they could have been better used in both gameplay and story regards. And I'm going to be starting with the most out of the way and inconsequential of these, being Tails Doll. Now, when this game was first being shown off and before it came out, my first kind of like, this feels a bit disingenuous, like they missed a really obvious thing to do here, is when they were talking about the multiplayer stuff, and they showed all of the metal versions of the characters that you can play as, with like the ones that with Metal Knuckles returning finally, and a newly introduced Metal Amy. Now, with that was also a newly introduced Metal Tails, and that was the big glaring thing that I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? And some other people said this, and I was like, why isn't it Tails Doll? Because, that's kind of the point of him, and what made him so appealing and funny and stand out in the first place is that he wasn't a metal version. He was just like a doll, a cheap little stupid doll for no reason. And that's awesome. Like, I feel like that's why people fucking loved him in the first place. It's just because, like, why? It made him so unique and stand out from the rest, and more lovable in a way too, and funny, and like, when you're doing a multiplayer thing, that kind of, like, misses it and captures, like, again, the weird charm of the classic era is that, like, okay, Metal Sonic, Metal Knuckles, and then you just have this doll here just thrown in with them like it's normal, and I don't know, like, it just feels like a lazy, missed, like, knowledge thing to do that, to be like, yeah, Metal Tails too, and there might be a deeper reason, like, why they couldn't just make it Tails Doll, like, Maybe it was time constraints and budget. I kind of doubt that, but maybe it could have just been laziness. Who knows? I'm not really sure who exactly developed all of the game, but yeah, that was sadly kind of a missed thing. And I know they get like different parts and everything too, so maybe they just had to copy assets of that. But I feel like it really was shown actual passion if they did understand the point and did make Tails to all the Tails version of that, and even gave him his own parts for it and stuff too. And it's just sad. And yes, I do know that he makes a cameo in one of the levels. I'm aware of that. But, you know, that's not really anything, and if anything, it just kind of feels like, I'm going to be using these words a lot, sorry, a disingenuine hand wave to it, like, oh, hey, look, Twitter audience, it's that thing that we saw that you said on the internet once that you like, look, there it is, love us, and that's going to lead up to the next character I want to talk about, being Feel the Rabbit. And yes, amazingly, Feel the Rabbit is in this game as a skin for Sonic that's silent and not really its own character. And if you didn't know this, it's probably because you only get it if you get the pre-order deluxe, whatever the fuck stupid version. At least we don't have one of those dumb charts that go along with it, like Origins. And yeah, I mean, that's really fucking cool, like, just on base off. I wish it was in a more, like, better game, but them referencing Feel at all in this way was already kind of a pipe dream anyway, so seeing that, I was kind of like, oh, whoa, but again, like, I feel like it could have been used more potential if you're going to put him in here anyway, and again, it would hurt less if it was just in a more, like, renowned game, but yeah, like, this kind of just also feels like another, like, hey, look, fan base on social media, it's that thing that you've all mentioned before that you think is cool and have done stuff with yourselves before. We did it too. Love us, even though we don't really actually care. And yeah, I feel like something that could have been really fucking cool, and what ties into the story of this, is that this is something that I just personally completely make up and think, like, it's not something I would truly expect them to do, but I think it's something that would be better than we got, and I've talked about this idea before, is if they put Feel in as his own character, and they made him, like, what the original intention for Oswald and Epic Mickey was like, where, coincidentally being a rabbit too, he is a sympathetic protagonist. Your mileage may vary on how much you do the sympathetic parts, who's ultimately angry because this other main character came in and stole the spotlight from them, and they want revenge and to get rid of them. And, like, the way you could, like, tie that into, like, an actual in-universe story that's not just, like, completely fourth wall breaking is, like, say that, like, maybe Feel used to be somebody who would, like, do more heroic deeds around the world, and then Eggman showed up, and originally Feel was gonna go stop him, but then Sonic just came rushing in and took care of that, and he was nowhere to be seen again. Feel, I mean. And then suddenly here he pops back up, and he starts messing stuff up, and I think a funny way to do it would have been, like, kind of to, like, trick the audience too, like, have it be, like, a run-of-the-mill Sonic game. Like, maybe Feel could have been, like, advertised and, like, oh, this character's here too, and, like, he seems like an ally at first, or he's just not there at all. And it just seems like another normal 2D classic Sonic game, like, oh, Eggman's there, he's doing bad things, and you gotta get the Chaos Emeralds, and blah blah blah, and after you do the usual rigmarole and beat Eggman, Feel would come in, hijack the story, and he would end up being, like, the antagonist in the end too. Like, I feel like that would have been, like, a funny surprise, and again, just, like, a really sincere and awesome way to celebrate, like, the classic era of Sonic, and truly acknowledge and, like, want to passionately work with these characters and game. And finally, I think I can start talking about the character who I feel like they screwed up the most, and, like, not even, like, underutilized. Like, well, yes, that too, but also actually fucked up the character and missed the point and actual characteristics of this character. How many times did I just say character? Anyway, it's Fang. I want to talk about Fang the most. And when I first saw the trailer, I was like, okay, whatever. But once Fang came in at the end, I was really excited. I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome. They're finally doing stuff with him again, and it's fucking cool. It seems like that they're really giving a shit about reviving these more obscure characters, and other people are excited too. However, in the actual game, and sadly what I feel like that they're just doing with him in general, is that they're making him way too villainous. Now, Fang, of course, isn't exactly a hero at all, or has the highest moral standards, but he isn't supposed to be, like, irredeemably evil. I know I'm talking about a character who didn't appear in many things, but he was in the comics a lot, and he was in a surprising amount of classic games back then, even if he was explore much. And I know if I mean Archie, like, I mean, he was in IDW too, and I feel like they did a better job of capturing his character there. Specifically, the 30th anniversary piece. I feel like the comics are tied to this game also kind of ruined it, and I'm hoping the future spin-off series I heard is coming as of recording this does him better. But yeah, I'm a huge Fang fan, and I guess before I'm continuing, why the fuck did they change this name again? Just why? Was Sniper too extreme for like rated E or something? I mean, it wasn't a problem before, so it's just kind of strange that they would change it now, especially after all this time. Like, yes, he was known as Knack before, but the change came like when he was more fresh, and it wasn't like decades in. I don't know, it's just strange if they thought Sniper was too weird to suddenly change it now after everybody's known him as that for this whole time. And yes, I know they give a reason for it and reference it, like, oh, he's gone by many different names to hide his identity since he's wanted, but it's like, you're still calling yourself Fang Fang, like, Knack to Fang works so much better, because it's also kind of funny too, because it feels like that he gave them himself the nickname, like, not only for that reason, but just because it sounds so cool. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm Fang the Sniper, look at me, you better fear me, threaten. And, you know, just going from Sniper to Hunter, nobody's gonna know the difference, man. They all know that it's still you, like, that's not effective. It's a bad, stupid reason, and I don't fully understand why they gave it that change. Especially after all this time, it's frustrating. I think most people still just call him Sniper anyways. I feel like they messed up his character, made him way too villainous, maybe too goofy too. I don't know, that part's kind of fine. Fang was always cartoony, and the dude walks like Mr. Krabs and fighters and stuff. And speaking of fighters in the IDW comics, which better captures his personality, is that he's not meant to be a completely irredeemable villain. He's meant to be neutral, more into things himself or his teammates. And he's willing to team up with the heroes too, because again, he's meant to be more neutral, not completely awful and vile, which they're doing way too much and simplifying way too much, which is annoying. And he's willing to work with the heroes, because like if he thinks that something's like way too bad, like he feels like that somebody's like mistreating him, or they're not going to pay him, or they're thinking that like they're doing like way too far, like they're going way too far, like Eggman and fighters, then he's going to be working for the heroes to stop that. He's going to have a problem with it. And in the 30th anniversary issue in IDW, I love it. They better capture this where he does actively work with Sonic and his friends. And even Tailsdoll is better portrayed in this, despite being Tailsdoll. So yeah, like that was a huge disappointment. And what if this would have been fucking awesome with the story I came up with like there being like a twist villain. I know Disney has like dirty that word, but I think it would be better done here. But anyways, once that like halfway point comes where the twist villain comes in, I feel like it would have been awesome if at that point Fang's like, well, I'm not fucking working for Eggman anymore, what am I doing? And there's this asshole here who's a bigger problem. And well, if by that point you unlocked Fang as a playable character, and you can choose him and have him be with Sonic and his friends and represent purple, hell yeah, and that would have been fucking awesome. And I, again, would have been such like a genuine like thing to give to like the classic fan base. I would have fucking loved that. Like I would have gotten the game just for that, but unfortunately, like he's just kind of there, and again, almost just feels like a hand wave, like, hey, we all heard on the interwebs that you like this character who we haven't done anything with in forever. Here you go. And we didn't really fucking give a shit and look much into it, but there you go. And yeah, it's just kind of a shame, and I don't know, maybe at the end, if I'm saying that this hypothetical field character who's the antagonist maybe gets, like, understanding and empathize at the end, and, you know, like, decides to reform and redeem themselves, then maybe at the end you can unlock Feel as his own character too for beating the whole entire game. That would have been awesome, man. I know in there's a character named Trip who's kind of like that, but I haven't heard anybody say anything about Trip. I don't know if anybody gives a fuck about Trip, I'm not sure at all. Sorry if I'm offending anybody with that, but it's just true. I feel like it was kind of unnecessary and kind of poorly managed. I don't know. It just felt kind of unnecessary, and I feel weird about just like kind of like throwing in and creating new quote unquote classic characters and adding those in, especially since like it wasn't necessary here at all. And this is strange because there's a lot of classic characters that haven't done anything from all sorts of different sides of media from the whole entire Sonic universe that you could bring back and do more with. Like, even outside of Fang, like, there's way more obscure characters of him that have been underground for way longer. But yeah, that kind of wraps up the characters and everything I want to talk about. Yeah, it is just kind of a shame that this game was like another disappointment and like another thing of doing like weird stuff alongside Origins. Like just when it seemed like it was kind of like safe and pleasant to be a Sonic fan again, with Frontiers mostly hitting well and all of the other media, like the IDW comics I've been talking about, getting better praise and all that. It's a sad shame that both this and Origins have kind of missed the mark, and they both happen to be classic situated stuff. And yeah, just like not getting the gameplay right and doing weird things like renaming Fang again, or Classic and Hyper Tails, which I've heard they gone back on, and it's just a very strange mess. And I think overall they just need to like get representation that better cares about like the classic side of Sonic and is more of a genuine fan, and I guess like just have them in a more leading role rather than just like whatever programming stuff and getting just like another team member to do the stuff who hasn't looked too much into it. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the idea is displayed here within Better Thing. Again, it doesn't offer much of gameplay, but hey, at least people kind of like the 3D models. I would give it that praise. They say it's the best classic Sonic looked in 3D. I think it's a bit weird, and I don't know, kind of gives vibes of like pre-Frontiers, not even that, maybe just including that of Monarch, which isn't a good thing because, I mean, like 3D Sonic's always kind of been a controversy, not the gameplay I'm talking about, but just like the way they visually look, which is, yeah, kind of rough. I don't know, maybe Classic Sonic looks best as just sprites or as charming low poly 3D models with a personal tag to it, but hey, imagine if they made a classic themed game with that amount of care to it, and it looked like those animated cutscenes or the cartoon. That would be fucking incredible, but man, that would take a lot for them to make. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and that I did a decent job of getting my thoughts across, and let me know what you think. Take care.